because we want to make sure we have enough time for it. I know our next speaker, Chen, has some very special things for you, and I don't want you to miss any of that. So, John, let me see if I can bring you on, and I want to pass it over to you as we talk about another really important topic, psychological safety. Very interesting. I'm excited to learn more. Let's see here. Yeah,
Hey, Liz, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
Thank you so much. Tuning in from Seattle, Washington. Thank you, Liz. Having Techsy Talk here. So today, thank you, Dia. JohnIsTheBomb.com. Thank you so much. One of the things we'd love to do too here, I love the last talk, and just everyone, the topic is this: 10 quick tips to make your attendees feel comfortable. So, one, if we're not going to take a break, let's just do this. All of you here and all of you who are listening, thank you all for everyone who's tuning in live. Just take a moment. Ready? And inhale and exhale. And just glad that you're here with us. And do us a favor here too, because I've already seen some of the people here chatting, which is chat something that you do to make your attendees feel comfortable on a virtual meeting. So we love to see the chat blow up a little bit here. Speaking of which, too, I'm actually going to give you a handout for this. Megan Powers played his own walk-on music. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give you the 10 tips here. And 10 quick tips, again, to make your attendees feel comfortable. There's a link there, so you can download that and follow along with me. And so with that, one of the top things is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Google. Thank you, Google, for being here just a second ago, too. And I didn't know about that project. Is that Google did an amazing amount of research for a project called Aristotle. That's right, Aristotle. And it was around team building, which is why I'm interested. That's what I do, is that I spend most of my time doing team building. And they looked for the top factors for teams that were the highest performing teams. And they're radically different teams. Sometimes those teams are like to the schedule, they make all their milestones, and they ship on time. And then there's the other teams, which are a little bit crazy, a little wild, look like they're going to crash into a wall, and at the end they produce a miracle at the end. And so out of that, they came all this research, and they said, what do they have in common? Is it the manager, the composition of the team, the equipment we give them, the place that we put them? And it turned out to be none of those things. The 5 things that they came up with this were impact, meaning, structure and clarity, dependability, and of course, psychological safety. And I found this fascinating in terms of team building, that psychological safety was the number one thing that would be the indicator of a high performing team. And then as I spent my last 2 years in pandemic on virtual, I really felt this was one of the secrets to things such as people participating, such as hitting the chat. Thank you, Roxanne. Aloha to you too. Sharon says, I welcome them by name. Look, so some of you already have my tips, which I'm excited about. And it's the psychological safety where team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. This is what allowed people to chat, sometimes unmute, and sometimes actually turn their cameras on. What a miracle. Speaking of turning their cameras on, let's hang out with our good friend Dia. Hey, Dia, how are you?
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Oh, beautiful, as always.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you. John, you are the rock star.
Well, thank you, Dia. Dia, and also got me onto invited me to a meeting yesterday. She couldn't even attend because, by the way, she was working the polls. If you haven't voted, well, it's too late, but you should have voted. All right. So, but Dia was working the polls yesterday. Dia, tell us what you know, or you have any great examples. How do you build psychological safety in your virtual meetings?
It is important, as you pointed out. It has to do, and I love everything that's already been said. Naomi, we have to connect, and we will. And belonging, I've got a book coming out about belonging because it is basic to our human needs to feel like we belong. And if we don't feel like we're connected and we belong to people, then we're not able to be vulnerable. So you have to make that connection. And everybody in here or everybody listening, I'm sure has heard, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, it is absolutely truth. People want to know that you care about them. So one quick conversation tip, when you're meeting someone or talking with someone, oh, wait, listen. And I love this idea that I discovered, and you may already know this as well, but it never hurts to remember. If you take the letters of listen and rearrange these same letters, it spells silent. So as you're listening, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You're not living in the past or the future. You're being present. And when you can listen intently to someone, you can connect with them. And then you can share content with someone. They feel comfortable because they feel safe. You've given them a safe environment, and you can do that online as well. If you want to have the audience interact in the chat, start with simple questions and then note if they put a comment in the chat. Back to you, John. I hope I haven't said too much or talked too long.
Thank you, Dia. I was just seeing if I could change the headphones, and now my headphones are not cooperating. But anyways, it sounds perfect. Thank you so much, Dia, too. And I think what you really came about here, too, is that I'm going to again share 10 tips here. And the 10 tips are in this beautiful acronym called Captain Win, right? Captain Win. Every letter stands for something. And the first one here that you got to do in the pre-show was connection before content. Peter Block said this amazing quote, and he said, without relatedness, no work can occur. Dia, can you just share the story that just happened in the green room here on
I made a comment in the green room in the chat, and Naomi said, oh, wait, let's connect. And because I made a comment about her content and I related to it. So now we're going to connect because we found a common ground.
And speaking of connect, by the way, Phil Marison said, good to see you, Dia.
Hey, Phil.
Excellent. Thank you, Dia. You know, the next one that we have here too is that the connection before content. Easy tips for you is in a virtual meeting is either start your meeting early and allow to have time for those who come in early to have time to connect with each other. No agenda, right? Can talk about all the non-work related things. Or if your schedule's busy, start your meeting, but allocate the first 3 to 5 minutes. And instead of saying things like, Dia, let's just wait a minute for all those other people to log on. Because what does that tell all the other people who are early?
Why am I here?
Why am I here? Yeah. So reward the people who are early and to say, let's talk about, reconnect in the first 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll get going.
So what I do, I'm a sergeant at arms with Toastmasters, the group that you went to that I didn't get to go to. I open the meeting early. I've got music playing, and I say, tell me who has something good to say. What happened good today? What happened good this week? Share with us, and then we can all celebrate. So you start off your meeting with, tell me something good. It sets the tone, and it gives people a feeling of inclusion in the conversation. If they hear other people and they get to celebrate with other people, which gives them part feeling of celebration as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Dia. Dia gets to stay out here for just a few more minutes, which we get into the A. The A in Captain Win is for air traffic control. So when you get all your friends in here, like I got my good friend Joe Welch, the Will Fairy is here. Hey, Joe, how's it going? She's checking mic here too.
It is fantastic. Welcome and good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody around. My name is Joe Welch. Nice to meet you all.
Perfect. And my other friend is here, Josh. Josh is here too. Hey, Josh. Mr. Josh Javelberg is here.
Hello.
And Josh is expert in gamification. Got one of those PhD things going on, so forth and so on. So, Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just still recapping your conference. So it was that was one of the main things I've been working on lately.
We are crushing some analytics on my conference, the Engaging Virtual Meetings Conference 3.0.
Good stats. Good stats.
So yeah, so what I'm showing here is an example of air traffic control. You can have multiple people on instead of all of us talking at the same time. As the host of the meeting, one of the goals is that you'll find that your meeting will go better, faster, probably do more things if you just have somebody here help with air traffic control, which is who's going to go next. So by the host of the meeting is to really help and direct that. Although I gave this great example yesterday, you know, like if I'm the host and I just stop talking and I give no direction,
then someone else might chime in.
only if you have great hosts like that. But otherwise, the meeting is really awkward when you really don't know where to go next. And so simple things too that help on virtual is also when you're done is to, you know, give a cue back to the host to let you know when you're done, because not everybody is clear about it. So things like, okay, and back to you, John. So small things like that are air traffic control. Although I do have to admit, I have a new goal. And a new goal is to actually lose control of the meeting and have everyone talk at the same time.
Like right now on top of you as you're trying to talk.
You mean just like start talking because I have something important to
It's
say?
really not
And
that
so,
directing at
We're really
all.
I mean,
passionate about this
you know,
topic.
to really
No,
identify
we
that
have to
thought
keep
that
going like
deep
this because it's
before.
really okay.
And so the reason why I want that is because then I actually know the psychological safety of the meeting is so safe. Everybody feels like they feel okay to talk at the same time. And it also means that I have a topic that has a lot of energy around it. So it is a goal. And sometimes I'll let it go on and most people will resolve it themselves. But that is one of my other side goals. Excellent. So speaking of which, you know, participation. So now Jo is actually skilled in a bunch of other things. Not only she is an advocate for the Will Ferry, she authored a book, but she is also an American Sign Language interpreter. So Jo, if you mind, for our friends who are who might recognize American Sign Language, could you just do something like say hello to them? Excellent. Thank you so much, Jo. And this is another way to find other ways to participate that makes the meeting feel comfortable. Again, we just talked with neurodivergent crowds. You know, you need to think about inside your virtual meetings. Do you have additional needs? And is there a way you can feel those people feel comfortable so they're not struggling to participate? You know, how can they participate with that? Thank you so much, Jo, with that. You know, the other part here too is that the other tip that I have. Oh, sorry, Jo. Do you have something you want to add?
Well, quickly, you know, I know there's a lot of savvy people on this call, but something as simple as captions goes a long way. I know that the Zoom platform offers them, as long as you know that people can access that. It's not the ideal way, it's not the only way, but it definitely is a great way to move forward and allow people to feel included. I would also say that, you know, sometimes we want that energy and hype, but not everybody processes that way. So even just making sure that there's some good turn taking, and so those are just two quick tips to think about our audience and making sure that they are welcome. The last one would be put a statement in your registration and know about someone's needs well at the beginning of the process. That already is going to cut down on a lot of the confusion and frustration that happens down the way.
Two great examples. One is happening today, Zoomtopia, as well as Envision, run by Microsoft, is a program that has buttons where you can actually get American Sign Language. Zoom recently did add a feature now to add it natively, where American Sign Language is a resizable window. So I think it gives a lot more options. In addition to that, the program was interpreted language-wise as well as captioned into over 14 languages. And so those are other things. I've worked actually on an 8-language Zoom today. I've worked on an 8-language Zoom virtual meeting, and that's another way to get and grow the audience that you can participate. You know, Josh is crafty though. Josh is one of my most craftiest friends. Josh, do you know who MacGyver is?
Absolutely. It's kind of how I have to operate most of the time.
So you're running gamification with organizations sometimes who don't have enormous budgets or massive resources.
Sometimes.
So one of the ways to make people, one of the ways to help virtual attendees feel comfortable is to just be a host so that you always know there is a way. So, I mean, even us after 2 years, sometimes our mics don't work, sometimes our, you know, the speakers don't work, whatever can happen, but that there's always a way. So Josh, I don't know if you have some crafty things that you've done in the past year or two and trying to help, you know, attendees or yourself participate in a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking at tools and things to come up. I mean, trying to get participation in general and increase engagement.
Oh,
Developed some
Wait,
apps.
to increase engagement, I took you off stage. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. So we developed apps that are like just using AppSheet or some other things to kind of get people engaged in different ways and into thinking about the uh, other spaces. I mean, just for your event, we looked at how the engagement took place, but we just used the chat logs and Excel, trying to clean up some data and deal with things like that. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can. I mean, it depends on what the problem is. You can always find something that's free or easy to solve it. I mean, and even just doing this presentation, I mean, you explained some great software like OBS to extend your reach and what you're doing and make it more engaging, which was also free and easy to use. And coming up with a presentation, it might be a mix of a whole bunch of different little apps to make it work the way you want it to. So it's just a matter of like thinking ahead of time, figuring out what Swiss Army knife you have available, and then kind of putting it all together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Josh. One of the other things that comes in here, having that MacGyver attitude is a way to make people feel comfortable. And the next way is this. It sounds simple, but it's acknowledgement. And I'd love to bring up Liz here. Liz, I just want to say hi, and I want to say thank you. I know that you've been running techsytalk for years. You and I have been friends in the meetings industry, and that you've really also contributed heavily in the virtual space. I just want to say thank you. All right, and thank you again for this opportunity. Acknowledgement is such a simple gesture that can have such a powerful result. And what I always say is that, if you acknowledge the people doing things that you want them to do, such as participate, that you'll get more of it. Liz, do you have anything that you want to add? Like how has acknowledgement been a win for you at techsytalk?
I mean, I think it's so important. And first of all, thank you for all that you have done for virtual meetings and for participating today. But I think it especially in a community, it's really important for people to feel like they're part of something and that people notice that they participate and that they're there. One of the phrases that I really like that I try to use frequently, meaningfully though, is I really appreciate you. Whether that's an event staff at an event or someone I'm exchanging emails with, very thankful and showing that gratitude, especially in this month, I think is very important. So I'm glad that you added that to your Captain Win.
Thank you so much, Liz. Let's bring up Joe and Josh. Feel free to give a quick thanks to Liz. Let's have Joe go first.
Liz, you're amazing. This is such a great space, and I want to just thank you for holding this space and making sure that we're continuing to stay on time and ahead of the game, making sure that everybody is included. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, again, thank you for engaging this space. I really, it's my first time in here, and it's I'm already learning a lot and engaging a lot with obviously being pulled up. So, but yes, this is wonderful, and keep up the good work.
Hope to see more of you.
Thanks again, Liz, and keep highlighting all those chats from our amazing people who are online. We appreciate that. Let me just check this. Oh, Megan, words of affirmation, my top love language. Okay, Joe or Josh, have you ever asked a question and got no reply? Like all the time?
Not Josh, but I definitely have.
Joe, do you want to add? Do you want to go ahead? Let's ask the virtual audience a question, right? Let's ask them and see if a question. But I would love to hear the question, like the way you asked it and the way that you got no response. So go ahead if you don't mind.
Oh my gosh, on the fly. Well, I'll take it to the will fairy. So oftentimes I ask people if they have a current and updated will, and especially when people are not feeling. So if you don't mind putting in the chat just whether or not, I think this might actually get engagement here because the audience is so amazing. But at the time when people didn't want to contribute and they didn't want to, admit what was going on. So I will ask the question, do you have a current and updated will? Please say yes or no in the chat. Oh, some crickets.
Okay, we don't have any replies yet online, but there's also the delay. Liz says yes. Oh, that's good. Megan says no. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Side note is that one of my my mom, who passed away a few years ago, the at her memorial, one of the leaders said, "Oh, your mom was a leader," and I'm like, "What? What is he talking about?" And he goes, "Because she actually had all her affairs taken care of, and it turns out that it's only 1 in 4, less than 25%." Need to update.
That's 1 in 4 in majority culture. When you look at the disability community, people of color, marginalized communities, it goes down to 1 in 9, 1 in 10.
Well, Josh, you think of a question here too, because one of the things that I discovered over this past year is what I call the invitation. And the invitation says this: the way you ask your question either increases or decreases the odds of people answering it. And so here are some quick tips. Of course, create a question that people can answer, right? Not like, some theoretical something, another too hard. Then tell people specifically how to participate. In this case, it's easy. It's like Zoom chat, right? Or private chat here. But give choices too. So especially with your live audience, right? Raise your physical hand or your virtual hand, something that's going to help include everybody, and then just get comfortable with the silence. So Josh, using some of these tips, could you ask another question to this audience here, both live and in person? Right, we have a green room here too.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say, can you define gamification for me? And asking that would be just take forever for them to chat, and you're just going to sit there and wait. But if I ask something like, "Is engagement is a game? Does gamification have to be fun?" And then raise your hand if you think it is, or answer in the chat, and hopefully people can answer quickly. So gamification has to be fun.
Liz says yes. Excellent. Thank you so much, Josh and Joe. One of the key pieces here is that when you ask this question, I found this because I was working with facilitators for breakout rooms, and he was asking a question like this, right? So is this point important to you? Oh, no? Okay, great. Then we're just going to move on. And even though people were thinking about the answer, he cut them off, and then it just trains attendees to be lazy, and then they become uncomfortable, and then they didn't answer. We have a few others here that we just really want to share. The next one is the creation of what we call the no sorry zone, right? So if you've actually seen somebody come in here and say sorry a lot, we have something called the no sorry zone that we've created, and was invented in April of 2022. I'm sorry, April 2020, when we just got sick of people saying sorry about things they had no control over, their dogs, their children, the blower next door, the lawnmower. And so we created the no sorry zone, and what goal was to bring the level of anxiety down, right? Take a moment to remember April of 2020, right? And the anxiety was way up here. And just to come here, if we're going to do something productive on this meeting, is to get people to feel comfortable, bring that anxiety down, and bring the no sorry zone here. All right, the next one, of course, is welcoming. The W in Captain Win is welcoming. I have this great theory now, which is the first 5 minutes of your virtual meeting are the most important. Has anybody ever seen this? You go to log into a meeting, right? It's 1 minute to the meeting. It's a very important meeting. Maybe has a very important speaker, and you see this. This is my new death knell that I know that the meeting is going to be bad. And so the way that you welcome and think about how you host that first 5 minutes, whether it's welcoming, telling people hello when you come on, maybe music, maybe a slide orienting them to where they are. That is really important. The next key here is make your meetings impactful. Is there something that you can do? I hope each of you actually take a moment now, if you can hit the chat. And if there's one tip or something that came here that either reinforces something or something new that you want to try, we would love to hear that. And the last tip that we have here is names. So with names, Chloe said, what I recently learned is that I changed my word to sorry to come off and be replaced with thank you, which helps you come from a stronger place as well. I think that's really key. One of the pieces here is that I want to close with this, is that if you apply these 10 things, is that, what this person said, it's not what you do, but it's how you feel. That's what I love the techsytalk community so much for, is that we concentrate on the experience for them. And so I'd love to say thank you to my guests here, Joe and Josh and Dia, who had to run. But I hope that you got at least one of these tips to help your people feel more comfortable in your next virtual meeting. Now, let's bring the one and only, here, wait, I have to say this for this as I bring on Liz. Here we go, Liz.
Thank you for attending the performance. And a special thanks to all those who helped with the show.
Now put your hands together for the one and only Liz Caruso.
You're so funny.
Thank you,
Now
Liz.
I want to go to Disney. I feel like I always hear those at Disney. John and Joe and Josh and Dia, thank you so much for joining and making, not only giving us great tips, but making your session itself, of course, engaging, because it's you, John Chen. You are the bomb, as they say.